Hello, everybody, and happy autumn. Hello to you, Hilary. Happy autumn, happy fall.
Oh,
Look
cheers
at
to
this.
autumn.
Cheers to autumn. Cheers. I love our background, Hilary. Thank you for moving us into the fall season. It's really reflect the weather because it's been very crisp and cool overnight, which I love. Yeah, I feel fall. I feel good about fall this year. I feel like it's an
Yeah,
auspicious time, so I'm happy.
ew. Change is a push.
Can't you feel it? Can't you feel
Yeah,
it?
yes, yes.
We've been talking offline about this, and I love that many of these things we kind of deal with in our individual lives, and was wondering what y'all were thinking about what happens when you get jealous.
Ugh.
We live in that age where we are able to see and compare and to be told by the media about things that we want or don't want or ways that we're supposed to be or not be. So tell me, my friend, I've got lots of examples for me. Do you have any examples of what it means to be jealous? Do you get jealous?
Why, sure, Rob. I sure do. I get jealous all the time, and this is not a great emotion. This is one that, immediately you feel shame, right? When you think about jealousy. I was trying to think. We just decided we were going to do this topic very recently. So I was just quickly trying to think of when I first started feeling jealousy. And, I can remember as a child feeling jealous about, mostly things that other kids had, or maybe the way, I remember having this friend who had a really cool dad and mom, and they did really interesting things, and I was like, remember feeling jealous of that. And yeah, it's a low vibrational emotion, probably the lowest. So okay, one example I was thinking about of what I deal with now is, the age I'm at now, everybody who has children, they, a lot of the kids study abroad or whatever, and then the parents go and visit them in the exotic countries that they're in. And the most of the time, the jealousy that I'm feeling these days is on social media when I see people showing these pictures of these fabulous trips to Italy or Portugal or wherever. And then, of course, my son is actually taking a trip to Australia through the university,
Nice.
during Christmas time, and I'm jealous of him. Like, so for me, it's like this feeling and need to travel as much as I can, and thinking that I would be doing that constantly, and I get that reminder on social media, and it just reminds me that I'm not, and I have all these other beautiful blessings, but that's the one that really sticks in my crawl. How about you, Rob?
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like I've had the roots of this too since I was a kid. And, I think so kind of jealousy and its sister, low vibrational, feeling envy, wanting what somebody else has is that form of envy. And then for me, the jealousy, that feeling that it's a very desperate feeling. It's this feeling like somebody has something that you want or a situation that you want. For me, I think I too would get very envious of other people who had things that I wanted to have. I mean, this sounds like this is one of those things, like you say, this is not childhood trauma. But the fact is, when you're a kid and, I just joked about this example. When I was a kid and all the kids are wearing their Levi's or their designer jeans to school, and my parents just have no desire to even indulge this idea. And so, my parents are making me, at the time it was like J.C. Penney plain pockets were supposed to be the Levi's alternative. And, kind of always having the knockoff of something really put me in a place. And I went to, we were a, middle class family in a very upper middle class township. And so, kind of feeling like you were comparing yourself to those other people at a time where you're already feeling so vulnerable and, you know, awkward and whatever. That's where that started. I think with pure, like, kind of evilly sourced jealousy, like, began when had some close friends, and close friends would migrate from me to other people. Or at the time, yes, I did have girlfriends. And if I felt like they were paying attention to somebody else more than me, this is true whether it's family or friend, I would get just, this it's almost like it's an indescribable kind of low vibration, feeling. And and I think it inspires us to do things that we wished we wouldn't have done when we've done them. So um yeah.
You didn't really give an example.
So I mean, I my best friend and my best friends at the time found I had began his relationship with the new girlfriend at, we were like in 10th, ninth or 10th grade, ninth grade. And this person who is currently probably my oldest and dearest friend in life still. But we, when we at first we hated each other because we were competing with my friends for my friend's attention, but then we realized that we had a lot in common. And when I began to realize that I really, friendship or romantically have feelings for her, I began just, getting wickedly jealous. And this classic trope of, best friends fighting over a girl or a friend, really became true. And like, I just remember, you know, and then she ended up, breaking up with him, and she ended up going with me. And so, then anytime that she would like talk to him after she did break up with him, even though we were best friends, we were all in the same kind of group, I would just get incensed. And I remember, and we have a lot in common emotionally. So she's very much the same way. So you had two people that would get jealous all the time. She's kind of at a very young age, kind of holding each other to strange standards. So yeah, that's very visceral when I think about
Yeah, yeah. And then bringing that into our adult world. I mean, that's probably where it stems from, the beginnings where you just feel like everyone else has something and you don't, that feeling is awful. And that feeling, is so prevalent as an adult. I know lots of people who get very jealous of the financial success that other people have, and that they don't. That's a big one. Or having, not having a partner in their life, and they feel lonely. I mean, these are very real things, and I feel a lot of empathy, because I know the feeling. And the feeling really is, it's almost shame. When you're a kid, you probably don't even know that you're jealous, but when you're, our age, and you're self-aware, you immediately know. And it feels, for me, it feels pretty shameful. It feels like, oh God, like, don't feel bad, or whatever.
it. I agree. It's a very ugly feeling. For me, it brings out like this ugliness inside of me again, this desperation, that it's the opposite of how I like to feel about myself. And uh, I think, of course, everybody's going to say this, but like social media exacerbates this idea that others are in a place that we aren't, regardless of whether it's real or not. But it's always there, especially if you're prone to this. Like, the strange thing for me is that I've always had this, I can trace this behavior back. But once social media started taking hold, and you start to see this kind of societal embrace of this kind of envy or jealousy. But I mean, at work, someone gets passed over, you get passed over for a promotion, or someone gets a job within your office that you wanted, or you know it is, it's a space that I deal with, passing or not passing, consciously or just below consciously, all the time.
Yeah.
So
And, even in the aging process, some people like, haven't gained a pound in all these years. Some people, hold up better. Like there can be a jealousy of how we look and how we see ourselves. It's I don't know, it just feels like a villain inside of me. It feels you know, look at
It
that.
does.
It's so catty. It's like
It
a
is.
and like, the first instinct, when you feel jealous of someone, at least for me, I feel like, and this is an honest moment, is I feel like you want to take them down. You want to like say bad shit about them. Yeah, well, they might have this, but they're such a this.
Right. Right. Which is so. I mean, I guess, and I know people are able to say, and I'm sure I've counseled people this way to say, well, um, you don't know what they're like. So for social media, for existence, for example, people will say, well, you don't know people's lives are like. Maybe this person has this going on. The adult part of me doesn't want my feeling secure to be at somebody else's expense. But again, honest moment. Oftentimes, I find myself in that space of like, I wouldn't be mad if something happened to this quote unquote good fortune or this wave of being.
Right.
Um,
You don't even really know. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
And like what you were saying in the beginning of your statement is that, especially on social media, things always look better than they really are. And I have this firm belief that none of us walking this earth has everything great, because otherwise what would be the point of being here? We're on this journey, so of course we're going to have experience, lack, and different experiences for the purpose of learning. So that's something I try and tell myself when I feel this jealousy. It's like, oh, wow, this person is going to, this country and this country and this country, but, their marriage, I wouldn't want to be married to that person. Or, that's kind of sometimes how I create sort of a calming feeling in myself, which still is not high vibe for sure. And I do have some high vibe solutions, but just to be honest, it is for me a piece to understand that not every aspect of a person's life is so perfect, even if it's
Right.
showing that way or they're talking that way or whatever, that's impossible, right?
Yeah, I mean, I used to say if I see one more picture from the balcony over some green blue paradise, scenario saying this is the view from my balcony, and we're right, and it just sent me over the edge. Um, and I think for me, it's like I've usually been either envious or jealous of something that I thought I was entitled to. So, there's a lot of things that people have that I have no desire for. And I know that they had to like pay a certain price, whether, it's work, additional hours, or do something they didn't want to do. But for me, it's like it starts with something that I feel like I either was a dream of mine, or I thought I was going to have, or I thought I was going to be. And I mean, I've got a whole system of things that go on in my head, but it's like I'm adding things up. And so what I'm getting is like, wait, I bought the same, I bought the same amount of material to make the outfit, and I used the same designer. And why does this person's designed life come out differently than mine?
Right.
Which is always that sign of of that low vibe thing. And to be honest, the way that transforms from envious or jealousy into bitterness is, especially as you get older, because bitterness is something that takes hold that then lasts beyond whatever we're envious or jealous about, to the
Yeah.
point where we won't even know where it comes from later. And I hate when I start discovering that, like, it becomes
Dark.
an attitude or a belief. So
Yeah, I mean, I have seen some elderly people older than me who are very bitter, and like everything they say sounds bitter and it's beyond repair at that point.
right.
And like, because we are self-aware and we're open to seeing ourselves, I can look at those experiences and look at those other people and think to myself, okay, I need to heal this. I need to, because I don't like who I become when this happens. And the reality is, what you resist persists and it grows and it takes hold of you. I mean, it's like it almost feels like goo just being dumped on your head and like you're paralyzed. And so, I mean, I guess we have to, learn some techniques for how to calm it down so that we don't end up in our we are kind of elder, but in our elder years
Right.
as too bitter. And one of the things that I'd like to say that when I'm in a good space and I can say to myself, I know for a fact that the opposite of jealousy is gratitude. And so, you know, what I try to do when I'm in a place where I can do it is say to myself, when I'm seeing somebody's trip to Italy or wherever, I say to myself, yeah, but I get this great place at the beach that I can go to whenever I want. And, I just start listing the things, and that's a big thing. I realize that. But sometimes it'll just be little things. Well, I really love my partner still, or gosh, I'm really fortunate. My health is so good. Like things like that, I mean, obviously when you feel jealous, you have to feel it. You have to allow yourself to feel it. Wouldn't you agree?
I
Like,
do. Yeah, I think the one thing that makes this a complex, issue is that the shame around it. Like again, once you're exploring, if you're watching this and you're a seeker and you're trying to integrate some of these things into your life, now you can put names to some of these things you're feeling, and so when you feel them, it's hard not to feel shameful about them. So it's like, no, acknowledging that jealousy is a very human thing. War has been fought over this, and relationships are burned for it. So everybody has these feelings, but how do you get to a place that it's doesn't have power over you anymore?
right. So we talk about, we've talked before in some of our earlier videos about observing it first and just witnessing it and being that's interesting. So instead of punishing ourselves at the moment when it comes up, to look at it and be like, okay, this is very normal behavior to feel this. That's interesting. And then perhaps reminding ourselves of what we have. I mean, that's kind of how I try and deal with it. How do you get out of it?
I Gratitude's a good one. I found that I'm able to compartmentalize gratitude quite a bit. So somehow in my mind, I've worked out like, well, I'm grateful for all this great stuff in my life, but still, why did that person have that thing, or why do they have that life? So, but I do start. You have to start there, uh, and then realizing that when we realize that we do not lack anything. I mean, we can really come to that understanding that there's nothing else in the world that we need or want or need to have in any moment, to disempower the whole idea of comparing ourselves with our fellow humanity. I think that's, for me, that's my aspiration. So it's like, okay, so the door that I go through is gratitude first, and then realizing that I'm really grateful for just being alive, which has nothing to do with anybody else. And taking a social media break, that's also a kind of a quick fix too. If you really
Yeah.
find that you are feeling a space of just gnarliness, take a break for a bit and see what it does to you if you can. Because
Hmm.
when you take yourself out of an arena where you're comparing yourself to people 24/7, things do start to shift inside you.
Yeah. And another idea that I have is talk to a friend that you feel comfortable with sharing your most vulnerable thoughts, where you can be like, oh my gosh, Rob, I'm so feeling jealous about this person or whatever. So he can then be a reminder to me of like, okay, that's fair. You feel that, but look what you have, or, just sometimes just speaking it into existence, I think helps dissipate it instead of pushing it down, trying to pretend it's not there. And it starts like festering and growing. And
Yeah, no,
then
I totally agree.
yeah. And then another idea that I have, which is I wish I could really do all the time, which is not having expectations in your own life, surrendering to what is. One of the reasons we feel so jealous is because we have expectations of how our life should be. And by creating those expectations, and I have a reel that I'm doing with this next week, it creates lack. I mean, you're already creating lack for yourself because inevitably it may not turn out the way you think. You can't, just always manifest it into existence. So if I could get to a place where I can surrender to what is and sort of exist in this present moment, um, I know that's where happiness is. I mean, look, you could be, in Italy or Greece or whatever, and you still might not be in the present moment of surrender. You might be, in Greece looking at your social media, being jealous of someone else. So I guess that is really the goal, is to drop the expectations of how things should be and stay in the present moment. I feel like we could use that advice for every single thing we've ever said.
Really true, because it's a matter of stopping. It's a matter of realizing what you're feeling. Realizing that when you get what you wish for. And I cannot recommend enough. If this is my movie plug, 3,000 Years of Longing with Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba. It's about a woman who opens a bottle and a genie pops out, and she's given three wishes. And it's such a beautiful expression of what it means to be careful what you wish for. For me, my envy and jealousy goes to places where, okay, I'm going to get to Greece, but then I chose this one hotel, but I'm now upset because like my friends stayed in a more expensive place, and so now I'm going to be jealous I didn't stay there. And did I have the experience in Greece that they had? It is a very very slippery slope, and pulling ourselves back to here I am. And if you can love yourself and love the moment in Greece, then you can love yourself and love your moment in your home or with your pet or watching TV with your spouse. I think when we realize that we can have that moment wherever we are, then we're in the now. And then that's where gratitude, that's, what you said, gratitude is the
Right.
first place to start. We can only be grateful for the moment now. And so,
Yeah. Yeah. And also to not beat ourselves up when we feel this emotion, because it's really, talk about programming. I mean, it's been sort of programmed into us from birth. I mean, you should have this house, you should drive this car, you should wear these clothes. Oh, your hair doesn't look great, your makeup doesn't look great, all of those things. I mean, it's not just something that we were born with and just became jealous. I feel like we were taught that even with, our parents when we were little kids. Hopefully, I didn't do this to my kids, but like the older generations were definitely like, look at Johnny, like he's such a good student. He look at da. It's sort of programmed from the beginning that you're not enough, or you don't have what somebody else,
right,
and you
right,
should strive for that.
right.
Just strive to be the best.
Strive to be the best. Yeah, I agree. My mother, God rest her soul, really had this. She had this way of like hearing what other people's kids were doing, and then somehow sharing them. So this was like up until we were adults, and it's it is. You realize the programming when you can hear it as an adult. But like the media sends us messages like we're getting the diet commercials that are followed by the indulge yourself with rich Dove bar, back and forth and back and forth. So we're being told to like just relax and indulge ourselves, and then we're told to deny ourselves or become, make ourselves change. We don't need to change. I mean, in the end, there's nothing that needs to change about any of us. So
It's just so interesting. Like I always think about, the Wizard of Oz and how that whole Dorothy metaphor when, you've always had the power, my dear.
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
inside you. I mean, truly, we are
Like,
perfect beings. We just can't accept that we are. And we just have this longing and desire. Well, if this happens, then I'll be happy. If this happens, then I'll be happy, which again goes back to expectations. So learning to quiet that, but I guess, it's always walking this fine balance of learning how to you know flip the script and heal it, finding gratitude and things like that, but at the same time learning to be gentle with ourselves for feeling the emotion to begin with. There's
right. So if you come to
wrong.
that moment and you can't flip the switch in that moment, or you tried, then being aware of it and knowing that you tried and maybe you couldn't as it passed, let it go. It
Yeah,
because
yeah.
this is a big deal. You're right. Sharing it, I think, is really a beautiful thing. Not that you want a friendship to be based on shared jealousies, but boy, it did make me feel good if I would share. I mean, and you're somebody I could share those things with, and then laugh at it or let it go, or realize that we all experience it. But it is so jealousy is also an isolating emotion as well. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. No,
like
I think that that is really huge. Even if I always felt like it's okay to have a friend to bitch to. It's one thing if you take that bitching to this person, this person, this person, and this person. But to have, one person that you can say when you feel weak, man, I'm just so jealous that this person, this or whatever. And they can be like, yeah, I totally get it. But look, you get to do this or you get to do that. And then it sort of just brings you back. And that's why I always feel like speaking everything out, getting it out heals us so much. So worst case scenario, find someone to share your displeasure with. Share positive things too, so that they want to hang out with you.
right, right. So you want to share so that you're stronger when you leave that, not weaker with like, yeah, I can't. Yeah, who do they think they are? That feels good for a moment, but that just keeps it going. It really is about
Right.
let's bring it back to you. Who can bring you back to the now and
Yes.
this moment.
Yes. Yes. So I guess we're pretty well complete on this very complex issue. Is there anything else that you want to say about it before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize the universality of this, the fact that we are programmed, that we're always programmed. And so maybe, one of the ways out of it is also to just be aware of all the ways that we are programmed, even when it's not, impacting you at the moment. Can you look at the ads that you see, or the magazine ads that you see, or the way that we're interacting, and just see the roots of it? Does that help you see that this is something for us to move beyond?
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. I'm sorry for the noise out front. Uh, yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that. And I guess I would just add again to find gratitude as much as you can, to see what it is that you already have, to surrender to any expectations, accept life where it's at. Um, those are the ways out of it. But to understand that it's a natural emotion, and we all feel it. And to when you feel shame, because sometimes for me, when I'm sleeping at night and I suddenly wake up and my mind starts spinning, that's when I start to feel shame. And I feel myself start to shame myself, which is like so uncool of myself because I'm a good person, I'm doing the best I can, just like I'm sure all of our listeners are too. And give yourself a break, I guess, is what I want to say. Allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you feel. There are ways out of this sand trap, but in the meantime, you are perfectly a beautiful, wonderful person, even though you feel jealous.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
All righty. Well, I guess then thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Please, please, please like and subscribe, like and
Like and
subscribe.
subscribe, get involved in the discussion. All these topics we're talking about, we would love to hear from you, and keep the dialogue going beyond just these programs. So
Yes. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. See you next time.